There's a darkness that calls to me, an abyss of the unexplained, the horrifying, and the truly nightmarish. I can't look away, even as the shadows threaten to consume me. Tonight, we descend into the heart of terror, where legends are born from fear, and nightmares claw at the edges of our sanity. Here, the shadows are alive, and they are watching. In the suffocating forests, something massive moves with a predatory grace. Is it Bigfoot, or a far more malevolent force stalking us from the darkness? Staring into the black, we catch glimpses of thin, soulless forms with endless obsidian eyes. Are these the Greys, harbingers of terror that invade our dreams and reality alike? Above us, jagged shadows twist and writhe in the storm. Inside, formless phantoms flicker in the ruins, their presence suffocating, their intentions unknowable. Somewhere out there, monstrous shapes prowl with a hunger that chills the soul. Their gaze finds you, even when you think you're alone. Welcome to the Shadow Theory.
It was the 1960s, a time of change, hope, and hidden anxieties in America. Four friends, Bill and Dolly Romero, Bernie and Lucy Trujillo, drove home from Mexico, their car filled with laughter and memories. The open road promised only a peaceful return, but something unknown waited ahead. Bill, a Colorado native, drove with quiet confidence, his wife and friends at ease beside him. The miles slipped by, the desert landscape fading into night, the radio playing softly. They were ordinary people, unprepared for the extraordinary. This journey would become a dividing line in their lives, the before and the after. Bill Romero was steady, grounded, and at home on the road. The two couples shared a bond deeper than friendship, their conversation easy and warm. The desert night felt vast, the silence growing heavier as they drove. Routine worries, flat tires, wrong turns seemed far away, but something else was approaching, something outside normal experience. The car, a capsule of light, sped toward a moment that would shatter their reality. They were about to cross into a chilling, inexplicable mystery. The first sign was subtle. The radio dissolved into static, no station clear. Bernie fiddled with the dial, but only static remained. Suddenly, the dashboard and headlights died, plunging the car into darkness. Bill braked hard, the car stranded in a silent, menacing void. Panic set in. This was no ordinary breakdown. Bill grabbed a flashlight, asking Bernie to guide him by its beam along the road's edge. The engine miraculously started, and they crawled forward, inching through the unknown. Their world had changed. Fear now rode with them. The sedan glided through the desert, the friends relaxed and content. Bill drove with practiced ease, Dolly a steady presence beside him. Bernie and Lucy chatted in the back, the car a bubble of warmth and friendship. The landscape was stark, the sky painted with twilight colors. Bill felt connected to the land, his heritage rooted in its stories. Night deepened, stars brightened, and the world outside became a realm of shadows. Inside, they felt safe, unaware that the night was about to betray them. Civilization faded as they entered the true heart of the desert. The silence outside grew profound, the car a small planet in a vast emptiness. Conversation drifted from jokes to plans, their friendship a shield against the dark. Bill, ever practical, trusted in logic and mechanics. But the desert can play tricks. The vastness felt watchful, the peace fragile. A subtle unease crept in, as if the darkness pressed closer, waiting. Their bubble of light and sound was about to be pierced. The sedan's interior was a sanctuary of light and connection, shielding four friends from the darkness outside. They spoke softly of home, family, and the comfort of routine, trusting in their car and the world's order. But as they drove deeper into the night, an unease crept in, reminding them that their sanctuary was fragile and something unknown was drawing near. The road stretched on, an endless black line disappearing into an unseen horizon. For the travelers, this horizon meant home, safety, and the end of a long journey. The car was filled with a peaceful weariness, the world reduced to the steady cone of headlights and the hum of the engine. Bill thought of his family, the comfort of home, and the friends beside him. The journey was nearly over. But the horizon ahead held more than just home. It was the edge of their reality, and the true journey was just beginning. It started with the radio. The cheerful song fractured into harsh static, filling the car with dread. Bernie reached for the knob, but every station was the same, just static. Suddenly, the lights died. The dashboard and headlights vanished, plunging them into total darkness. Bill slammed the brakes. The car stopped, but the engine still ran. Silence fell, broken only by the radio's crackle. Panic crept in. Stranded in the vast, hostile desert, the darkness pressed in. The rules had changed. In the crushing blackness, Bill Romero's mind raced. Staying put was not an option. They had to move, to reach the distant town ahead. With trembling resolve, Bill asked for the big flashlight. Bernie leaned out the window, shining the narrow beam on the white line. It was a desperate, fragile hope, guiding the car forward inch by inch through the void. Their only guide, a single wavering thread of light. As the sedan crept forward into the abyss, a low mechanical hum began to fill the car. Subtle at first, then growing, vibrating in their bones. It was everywhere and nowhere, an alien presence that seemed to emanate from the very air. The four friends exchanged panicked glances, fear blossoming into terror. They realized they were not just stranded, but being watched, hunted by something unseen, humming in the night. Bill scrambled to the car, heart pounding. He tumbled inside, gasping, "It's here! It's right on top of us!" Panic exploded as the shadow hovered above, trapping them. Lucy screamed. Bernie froze, dread crawling up his spine. "Go! Bill, just go!" Dolly cried. Tires spun, the car shot forward into the darkness, fleeing the crushing presence above. Their only hope, a distant town, a single point of light in the nightmare sky. They had been driving for what felt like forever. Time lost meaning, replaced by dread. The miles crawled by, each one measured by Bernie's wavering flashlight and the car's hum. Bill's need to stop became unbearable. The thought of leaving the car was terrifying. Inside, fear thickened as Bill reached for the door. With a final breath, he pushed the door open, and the night rushed in. The moment the door swung open, terror gripped every soul in the car. Bill Romero, hands trembling on the wheel, had been driving his family, Bernie beside him, Dolly and Lucy huddled in the back, north from Mexico, bound for their home in Westminster, Colorado. Now, on this forsaken stretch of highway, the night pressed in with a suffocating intensity. Inside the car, the hum had been a deep, bone-rattling vibration, one that even Bill, with his encyclopedic knowledge of engines, knew was not of this world. He could identify any mechanical problem by sound alone, but this was something else. Something unnatural. The sound outside was a monstrous wall, pressing in from every direction, making the air feel thick, almost unbreathable. Bernie's knuckles whitened on the dashboard. Dolly and Lucy clung to each other, wide-eyed, paralyzed by dread. The vibration traveled up through Bill's boots, into his legs, and into the very core of his being. It was so intense, so alien, it bordered on pain. He felt the pressure of the moment, as if he'd stepped off the edge of reality into a churning sea of mechanical terror. The others could only watch, frozen, as Bill moved into the darkness. The darkness was absolute, swallowing the car and its passengers whole. The sound was its voice, a voice that seemed to whisper threats just beyond the edge of hearing. Bill stumbled a few feet from the car, the engine's faint rumble a distant comfort. Bernie's voice, tight with fear, called after him, but Bill forced himself onward. He needed to put distance between himself and the vehicle, to answer nature's call as quickly as possible. Every second outside felt like an eternity. Every instinct screamed at him to run back, to slam the door, to drive until the nightmare was behind them. Inside, Bernie, Dolly, and Lucy watched, hearts pounding, afraid to even breathe. But Bill forced himself to stay, to finish the simple, necessary task. He was the protector, the one who always knew what to do. Yet now, even his expertise felt useless. The cold desert air, instead of clearing his mind, crackled with a strange electric charge. It was as if the very atmosphere was alive, watching, waiting. The sensation thrummed against his skin, a constant, terrifying reminder that they were not alone. Dolly whimpered in the back seat. Lucy squeezed her hand, both too frightened to speak. Bill tried not to think, tried to block out the terror that threatened to overwhelm him. He focused on the ground beneath his feet, on the familiar feel of gravel, on the simple act of breathing. But the fear was relentless. The sound consumed his mind, a mechanical roar that defied explanation. Bernie's eyes darted to the dashboard, searching for any sign of engine trouble, but there was nothing. No physical side effects, no warning lights, just the unearthly hum. It wasn't chaotic like thunder or a rock slide. It was something deliberate, something intelligent. The sound was controlled, rhythmic, impossibly powerful, like the heartbeat of a monstrous machine lurking just out of sight. It was the sound of a colossal engine, operating with perfect, terrifying precision somewhere in the darkness. Bill knew engines. He knew this was not human. He felt utterly exposed, a small, fragile man in the presence of something vast and unknowable. Bernie, Dolly, and Lucy felt it too, their fear primal and raw. It was the fear of prey sensing a predator, a terror that needed no explanation. The family was frozen, united in dread. The world shrank to this single horrifying moment. Nothing else existed. No past, no future, only the crushing now. Their senses were overwhelmed, the darkness and the sound closing in from all sides. Above, the sky was a void, dotted with faint stars, cold, indifferent witnesses to their terror. Bill could feel only the vibrating air and the cold sweat on his skin. The others sat rigid, barely daring to move. The hum was all-consuming, drowning out every other sound, every rational thought. In that moment, on the shoulder of a forgotten highway, Bill, Bernie, Dolly, and Lucy Romero were the loneliest people in the universe, helpless witnesses to a terror that defied everything they knew. Their world, once familiar and safe, now felt impossibly far away. Bill stood frozen in the desert, the deafening hum surrounding him. It wasn't coming from the ground or the mesas, it was above him. Terror rooted him in place, some primal instinct forbade him to look up. He knew something immense and alien hovered overhead. He stumbled back to the car, desperate to warn the others, the weight of the revelation pressing down from the sky. Bill threw himself into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut behind him. The sound of the latch clicking into place was a small, hollow comfort against the roar that still penetrated the car. He was panting, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with a terror that stunned the other passengers into silence. "It's here!" he gasped, the words tumbling out of him, raw and ragged. "Right now. It's right on top of us." He didn't need to explain further. The certainty in his voice, the sheer, undiluted panic in his eyes, communicated the horrifying truth more effectively than any detailed description could. A new and terrible understanding dawned on Dolly, Bernie, and Lucy. The vague, directionless hum suddenly had a location. It was not in the landscape around them. It was in the sky above them. The roof of their car, a thin sheet of painted steel, was the only thing separating them from the source of their nightmare. The feeling of being trapped intensified 100-fold. They were pinned down, exposed under the belly of an unseen beast. Lucy began to sob, no longer trying to stifle the sound. Bernie, who had been a pillar of stoic resolve, felt his composure crack, his hand shaking as he held the useless flashlight. There was no discussion. There was no plan. There was only a single, unified, primal scream in their minds. Flee. Bill, drive. For God's sake, just drive. Dolly's voice was a sharp, desperate cry that cut through the humming. Bill's hands were already on the wheel, his foot searching for the accelerator. He stomped on the pedal, and the engine roared in protest. The tires bit into the gravel, spitting stones as the sedan lurched violently back onto the highway. They were no longer driving with caution. Bill's entire focus was on speed, on putting as much distance as possible between them and the spot where they had stopped. The car fishtailed for a terrifying moment on the dark pavement before Bill wrestled it back under control. They were moving fast now, far too fast for their limited visibility. Bernie's flashlight beam, their only guide, bounced and jerked wildly, offering fleeting, chaotic glimpses of the white line. It was an act of madness, driving blind at such a speed, but it felt less mad than staying still. The terror of a high-speed crash was nothing compared to the terror of the silent, humming presence that they knew, with sickening certainty, was still hovering directly above them, pacing their every move. Their flight was a desperate, high-speed plunge into nothingness. The sedan rocketed through the night, a blind projectile guided by sheer panic. Bill gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles bone-white, his eyes strained as he tried to follow the frantic dance of the flashlight beam. Every curve in the road, every slight variation in the pavement, was a life-or-death challenge. The car felt light, almost disconnected from the road, as if the massive presence above them were somehow affecting gravity itself. They were not just running from something. They were caught in its field, participants in a chase where they were hopelessly outmatched. The humming did not fade. It did not diminish with their speed. It remained constant, a powerful, unwavering drone that seemed to mock their pathetic attempt to escape. It moved with them, an invisible ceiling pressing down, effortlessly matching their frantic pace. This was the most terrifying part of all. Their speed, their desperation, their flight, it was all meaningless. The entity above was in complete control. It was allowing them to run. The chase was a game, and they were the terrified, scurrying mice, unable to shake the shadow of the hawk that glided effortlessly above. Inside the car, the atmosphere was one of pure, suffocating panic. No one spoke. Words were useless, swallowed by the hum and the frantic sounds of their flight. They were four individuals locked in their own private hell, yet united by a single overwhelming terror. Dolly had her hands pressed against her face, her body rigid. Lucy's quiet sobs had subsided into a state of shocked, silent fear. Bernie held the flashlight, but his gaze was distant, his mind lost in the horror of their situation. They were beyond rational thought, operating on the most basic animal instincts of fear and flight, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no waking. The miles dissolved behind them in a black, humming blur. They had long since lost track of how far they had gone or how long they had been driving. Their only landmark, their only hope, was the memory of a sign for a small town. Was it 30 minutes away? An hour? They clung to that thought, that single possibility of sanctuary. It was a pinprick of light in an overwhelming darkness. They drove toward it with all the desperate energy they possessed, praying that the road would lead them out of this nightmare, praying that they could outrun the silent, massive thing that paced them from the sky, a chilling and inescapable god of the night. The fear had reached its zenith. It could not get worse. It was a physical entity, a weight that settled on their chests, making it hard to breathe. The relentless humming, the suffocating darkness, and the terrifying knowledge of the presence directly above them had pushed them to the very edge of their sanity. This was a fear that went beyond the rational threat of a car crash or getting lost. It was a deeper, more existential terror. It was the fear of the unknown, of a power so immense and alien that it rendered their entire existence, their entire understanding of the world, fragile and meaningless. In those terrifying moments, hurtling blindly down the highway, the world had been stripped of its rules. The laws of physics and mechanics, which had governed every moment of Bill Romero's life, had been suspended. A car's electrical system should not die all at once. An engine should not run when all the lights are dead. And above all, colossal, silent machines should not hang in the night sky, following cars on a desolate road. Their reality had been fractured, and they had fallen through the cracks into a place where nothing made sense, a place governed by the whims of an unseen and unknowable intelligence. The weight of this unknown was crushing. It was the realization of their own insignificance in the face of something so vast. They were not masters of their own fate, not even in their own trusted automobile. They were subject to a force they could not fight, could not reason with, and could not comprehend. This powerlessness was the core of the terror. It stripped away all pride, all sense of control, leaving only the raw, naked fear of a creature that has stumbled into the path of a god. Their desperate flight was not just a race for safety, it was a race to escape this horrifying new knowledge. The peak of their fear was this moment of absolute surrender to the incomprehensible. They could do nothing but drive, nothing but hope that the town was real and that they would reach it. They were no longer the Romero and Trujillo families, friends on a road trip. They were specimens in a jar, subjects of an experiment they did not understand. The humming presence above them was the scientist, observing them dispassionately. As they raced through the night, they were forever changed, marked by an experience that would leave a permanent scar on their souls, a chilling memory of the moment they felt the true, crushing weight of the unknown. It happened without warning. In the midst of their frantic flight, a miracle occurred. With a sudden, brilliant flash, the headlights blazed back to life, cutting through the darkness. The dashboard glowed, illuminating terrified faces. The radio played a cheerful song, absurd in the aftermath. The world was suddenly normal again. Bill slammed on the brakes, and for a moment, no one moved. They looked at each other, relief and disbelief mingling on their faces. The presence was gone. They had survived. Though the terror had passed, fear lingered. The highway felt menacing, the darkness threatening. They pressed on, desperate for the safety of town lights. The distant glow of streetlights was a promise: civilization, safety, sanity. They arrived, exhausted, clinging to the comfort of normalcy and the hope that the nightmare was finally behind them. Under the buzzing neon glow of the diner's sign, the four of them began to inspect the sedan. They were searching for something, anything that could explain the night's events. Bill, his practical mind desperate for a mechanical explanation, immediately popped the hood. He expected to find a burnt wire, a loose connection, something to account for the complete electrical failure. With Bernie holding the flashlight, its beam now seeming weak and mundane, they pored over the engine compartment. Every wire was intact. The battery terminals were secure. There was not a single sign of an electrical short or any kind of mechanical malfunction. The engine looked exactly as it had when they'd left Mexico. Their search grew more frantic, more detailed. They ran their hands over the car's body, looking for scratches, scorch marks, or any unusual residue. They checked the roof, the spot directly beneath where the terrifying presence had hovered. It was clean. There was nothing but the usual layer of road dust. They examined the tires, the undercarriage, the windows. The car was pristine, untouched. There was no physical evidence at all. It was as if the dead lights, the static, the blind 40-mile drive, and the deafening hum had been a shared hallucination, a collective nightmare with no basis in physical reality. This lack of evidence was, in its own way, more terrifying than finding a burn mark would have been. A physical sign would have been proof, something tangible to anchor their experience to. But this perfect, maddening normalcy suggested that the force they had encountered operated on a level that left no trace on their world. It could interact with their car's electrical system, follow them for miles, and terrify them to their souls, all without leaving a single fingerprint. The implication was staggering. It meant the phenomenon was completely beyond their scientific understanding, a true ghost in the machine. They stood there for a long time, leaning against the car, defeated. The mystery had only deepened. They were left with nothing but their own memories, their own shared terror. There was no proof to show anyone, no evidence to bring to a mechanic or a police officer. Who would believe them? They would sound like lunatics. They exchanged exhausted, hollow-eyed looks. They knew what had happened. They had all lived it. But in the face of the car's perfect condition, their harrowing experience began to feel fragile, unreal, a ghost story that even they were beginning to doubt, despite the raw fear still coursing through their veins. The car showed no damage, but the passengers carried invisible scars. The horror of that night lingered, a silent bond that set them apart. Bill Romero, the protector, was left powerless, haunted by what he could not explain. The memory became a wound that never healed. They had looked into the abyss, and the abyss had left its unseen scars. The years rolled on, but for Bill Romero, the memory of that night in the 1960s never faded. He could still feel the suffocating darkness, the bone-deep vibration of the hum, and the terror of something hovering overhead. It became a story he told his family, not for entertainment, but as a warning, a testimony. The others carried the memory too, a secret that bound them together. For Bill, the echo of that hum would haunt him for the rest of his days. The story of the Romero encounter became a dark family legend, passed down through generations. For Bill's sons, it was more than a ghost story. It revealed a side of their father they rarely saw. They saw how the memory haunted him, and learned that even the strongest can be shaken by the unknown. The story had no explanation, only fear, wonder, and a chilling sense of mystery. Bill Romero's legacy was not answers, but a powerful reminder. Some mysteries are never solved. Ultimately, the story of the Romero and Trujillo road trip is a story about a single, profound, and unanswered question. What happened on that highway? What was the source of the humming? What was the intelligence that so casually demonstrated its complete control over their vehicle and their senses? Decades have passed, and we are no closer to an answer than the 4 terrified people in the car were that night. The event remains a perfect enigma. A sealed black box of high strangeness that resists all attempts at rational explanation. It is a chilling testament to the limits of human understanding. We can speculate. We can posit theories about secret military aircraft, unusual atmospheric phenomena, or even a collective stress-induced hallucination. Yet none of these explanations truly fit the specific, bizarre details of the encounter. A military craft would likely not be so silent, nor would its presence explain the complete and selective electrical failure. A natural phenomenon does not typically pace a car for 40 miles, and a shared hallucination does not usually manifest with such precise, consistent, and multi-layered details among 4 separate individuals. Every logical door seems to lead to a dead end, leaving only the incredible, unsettling truth of their account. The true horror of the incident lies in this lack of an answer. A monster that can be named and understood, even a terrifying one, is ultimately a monster that can be fought or avoided. But the entity the Romeros encountered was formless, traceless, and incomprehensible. It operated by rules they could not fathom, and for a purpose they could not guess. It was a force of nature, but not of their nature. This is the essence of a true close encounter of the third kind. The confrontation with an intelligence so alien that it leaves us not with answers, but with a deeper, more profound sense of the cosmic mystery we are all a part of. And so, the question hangs in the air, as silent and as massive as the object that hovered over their car. It is a question that challenges our most basic assumptions about our place in the universe. Are we alone? And if not, are the others friendly, hostile, or simply indifferent observers, conducting experiments we can never hope to understand? The Romero encounter offers no comforting answers. It only offers the chilling testimony of 4 ordinary people who took a road trip and drove straight into the heart of an inexplicable darkness, leaving us to wonder what else might be waiting for us on the lonely roads we travel at night. Bill and Dolly Romero and Bernie and Lucy Trujillo survived that night, but their lives were forever changed. The memory of the humming darkness became the final horizon of their understanding, a boundary beyond which lay only mystery. Their story stands as a chilling reminder that sometimes the line between our safe world and the unknown is as thin as glass.